How exactly did this all happen?
How it all happened? Where do I start? I was a junior at Montclair State, a film major. This year I had to take documentary workshop. I was pretty excited, I love documentaries. I always wanted to make my own little short form documentary, especially after I was a part of one last semester. I was in a film that showcased how I integrated my musicianship in my filmmaking, and I thought that was really interesting. I felt I could really use something with music, and I've always wanted to film something with live music, anything like that. Now, this is where Sahila comes to the picture.
You gotta make that thing move. You gotta make that thing bounce, man. You can get fucking with me like that. That shit ain't good. Are we getting it? Right on. Rock.
And on the beach, so I'm taking off. Hey, Kelly, how do you want it today?
My friend Sahila, she manages rappers. She manages a rapper named Valley Rocket and a producer, Dren Taken Off. I was fascinated, what does a manager really do, especially at this young age and in this flourishing time in all three of their careers? So I wanted to kind of dive in. I wanted to make my doc about her and the circle around her, see how, what I could get into. Also, any opportunity to film live shows, I was there. Eventually, our schedules aligned, and we could finally meet and film an interview. We sat down, took about 30 minutes of interviewing. She got right to the point, gave me all the questions, and it was a great time. I got the footage, and I was really excited to get back. That was just the beginning of when it all went wrong. I arrived back at my dorm with my camera bag and a bag of Wendy's, treating myself for a successful interview with fries, chocolate frosty, and a son of baconator cheeseburger. I walked inside and placed my camera on the bed to begin the footage dump process. I insert the SD card into the reader and began my dump. I inhaled my meal with ease as I awaited the completion of my dump. Moments later, I recognized an error message on my computer. The disk you inserted was not readable. Eject or initialize. It sounded like a threat. I looked for all possible solutions. Data recovery software, new card readers, nothing would work. The footage from that night was gone. I called Peter, my gaffer and friend, and I said to him, "Peter, I lost the footage." With no solution in sight, I ate my meal to calm my nerves and emotions. It had been a tough night for me. To top it off, I got the ketchup-mayonnaise combo known as fancy sauce on my hoodie, leaving a stain enough to drive one crazy. The next day, I started piecing together what little footage I had. It was an embarrassment. With no interview footage and no interesting B-roll, what was my doc going to have? I spent hours looking at the same footage. It made no sense. I even went out filming trees and driving for B-roll, but what did that have to do with the doc? It had no place. I got an Alley Rocket music video off of YouTube to put into the cut, but where would it tie in? There was no structure with it. Where would I go from there? And I kept looking at it, and I realized with what I had, this is horrible. I figured at this point it was time to let the professor in on what was going on behind the scenes. I was struggling with so much, and I thought, you know what? She should know about this. Not even long after, she got back to me. She suggested the one thing that could make this all right. You could turn this into a first-person narrative and make the story about your quest to access your subject and all the conflicts you incurred. And I thought to myself, I got it! This is it! Motivated by my new narrative, I was inspired. This is a story I knew I could tell, and I was excited. I got my equipment out and got to work. Setting up the tripod and the camera, I had to get into my position, the subject. Sitting in the chair in front of the light in front of the camera. Tim Jones, both behind and in front of the camera for what had become his documentary. The doc was complete. I had all my resources prepared and ready, but there was one last thing I had to do, and it was a daunting task. I had to tell Sahila that I failed her, that I couldn't make the documentary that she was so excited about, that she put all her time into. I didn't know how I was going to do this. I spent so much time just anticipating it, and I didn't know how to pull the trigger on doing it. But I mean, eventually you have to, right? Hey,
Hey.
so I got the footage. It's really good. My professor emailed me, and I told her about the problems, and she was
Okay.
like, "You can change the narrative to yourself." And I'm like, that might be easier, and but
Okay.
I'm sorry that uh, I wanted to do the doc on you and Ali Rocket and Dren, but like I just couldn't do it. I didn't have enough resource. I failed.
It's cool.
Really, it's all good.
Yeah, it's cool.
That went better than I expected it to. She didn't seem upset, but she didn't show her face, so I believe otherwise. I'll have to see what she thinks when the film is finished. I think there are some stories of others that we can tell, but we should also remember to tell our own stories. What happened this weekend was unprecedented. I didn't think it could happen to me, especially under these time constraints. It can happen to anyone, these circumstances.